For decades, the story of the global economy has been one of constant, massive change. But right now, one of the biggest shifts is happening in India. It's transforming at an absolutely breakneck speed, moving from just a supplier of raw materials to a true global economic force. What we're witnessing here is the rise of a new powerhouse, a giant in high-value manufacturing and service exports. And this isn't just some small tweak. No, this is a fundamental rewiring of India's entire trade system, turning its ports and airports into these absolutely essential hubs for the whole global economy. And the numbers? They tell a pretty incredible story. Just since 2014, India's total exports of goods and services have shot up by 76%. That's a peak of nearly $825 billion. We're talking about a huge leap onto the world stage. But, and there is always a but, behind this amazing success story, there is a fundamental geographic problem. It's a physical bottleneck that actually threatens to choke off this very growth. So the big question is, what is it? Well, to answer that, we've got to dive into India's great trade transformation. It really all comes down to its total reliance on the sea, its maritime lifeline, and a critical bottleneck hiding inside it. Just think about this for a second. An incredible 95% of India's trade by volume moves by sea. It's not just the main method. For anything big, it's pretty much the only method. You could say India's entire economy literally sails on the ocean. And this is where we hit the core problem. See, on one hand, you've got these massive, modern, ultra-large container ships. But on the other hand, India's ports have always been naturally shallow. We're talking just 8 to 12 meters deep. It's a total mismatch, and it creates this huge inefficiency. A full quarter, 25% of the country's cargo, has to be dropped off at deeper foreign ports, like Colombo or Singapore, and then reloaded onto smaller ships. That adds time, it adds cost, and it's a major competitive disadvantage. Okay, so to really see how this all plays out on the ground, let's start a little tour on India's powerhouse western coast. This is the industrial heartland, the epicenter of the country's commerce and all its container logistics. We're going to focus on two absolute giants here. First, you've got the Mumbai metro area, India's undisputed financial capital. And second, up in Gujarat, you have the twin industrial engines of Ahmedabad and Surat. And Mumbai? It's way more than just where the stock market is. Its huge, modernized port, JNPT, is an absolute titan of container trade. Get this, it handles over half, 50% of the entire nation's container cargo all by itself. It is the logistical heart of India. Then you've got Surat, nearby in Gujarat, known as the Diamond City. And that's not just some cute nickname. The city processes a mind-blowing 72% of the world's diamonds. They import the rough stones and export these incredibly high-value polished gems. It's just a perfect example of a super specialized global hub. All right, now let's head south, because down here, the story changes a lot. We're moving away from heavy industry and into high-tech, precision manufacturing, and all those knowledge-based industries. Welcome to the Southern Tech Corridor. Honestly, the nicknames down here tell you everything you need to know. You've got Chennai, the Detroit of Asia; Bangalore, of course, the Silicon Valley of India; Hyderabad, a global hub for pharmaceuticals and life sciences; and even Visakhapatnam, the deep-water gateway that's basically become the king of seafood exports. Chennai is just central to so many global supply chains. We're talking auto giants like Hyundai, Nissan, and BMW, plus electronics titans like Foxconn. They all build their products here and ship them straight out to the world through the city's ports. But Bengaluru and Hyderabad, they play a totally different game. Even though they're landlocked, they're massive export economies. The key is, they don't really rely on ships. They rely on planes. They specialize in super high-value stuff like aerospace parts and temperature-sensitive vaccines that have to fly. Okay, let's pivot one last time, up to the northern and eastern gateways. These regions have their own unique geography, which means they play a very different, but just as vital role in India's whole trade network. So, up in the landlocked north, the Delhi capital region is the undisputed king of India's air cargo network. Its main airport processes over 1 million metric tons of cargo every single year. We're talking time-sensitive, high-value goods, smartphones, electronic parts, high-fashion clothes, and precision machines. Now, over in the east, you have the port complex of Kolkata and Haldia, which is actually on a river. It's this super strategic lifeline. This port doesn't just serve eastern India. It also gives vital sea access to landlocked neighbors like Nepal and Bhutan, mostly for commodities like tea, jute, and steel. So let's bring our whole tour together for a second. Think of this table as kind of a cheat sheet for everything we've just covered. You can see Mumbai's insane dominance with over 50% of container traffic, Surat's crazy specialization in diamonds, and that big shift to high-value air cargo in tech hubs like Bengaluru. Each city, each port, plays its own unique and absolutely vital part in India's massive trade machine. Okay, now that we've toured the map, let's zoom out. Because beyond the physical ports and airports, there are these powerful strategic forces at play, some major challenges and some huge opportunities that are going to shape the entire future of India's trade. And this just shows you the kind of complex games that get played in global trade. See, to get around really high import taxes on gold, some importers are using a clever loophole in the India-Japan trade deal. They're bringing in gold disguised as chemical compounds to avoid the taxes. It's a tactic called regulatory arbitrage, and at the end of the day, it just hurts tax revenue and makes the trade deficit worse. But maybe the single biggest challenge on the horizon is global environmental policy. This chart, wow, it's pretty stark. A massive 68% of India's exports go to countries that have net zero carbon targets. And new rules, like the EU's carbon border tax, pose a direct threat to carbon-heavy Indian exports. Everything from steel all the way to energy-intensive IT services. The source material really just nails it with this quote. India's gateway cities are not merely passive transit points, they are the active crucibles where national industrial strategy collides with the global economy. I mean, they're the dynamic front lines of India's entire economic future. And all of this brings us to the final, defining question for the next chapter of this story. As the rules of global trade are literally being rewritten around sustainability, can India decarbonize its vast supply chains fast enough to not just compete, but to actually win the future? The answer to that is going to shape the global economy for decades to come.